the hybrid kids.
On Earth in the future, yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, like, if you meant like a difference between the hybrid kids that I have, or if like you meant.
No, I meant what might be called a counterpart of your own from the same oversoul that is living life as a hybrid on the Earth in the future.
Okay, thank you.
So it has a degree of familiarity to you.
Okay, and then does taking birth control affect your psychic abilities? Like, does it?
It depends on your belief system.
Oh, so if you believe that you're fine, then it doesn't.
If you really, really,
Yeah.
truly know that to be true, yes. If you have questions about it, then you may be connecting into the collective consensus reality that says it might in fact affect it.
Okay.
So you have to decide for yourself what part of the collective works for you and what part of the belief system is your own individual belief system that works better for you than the collective consensus one.
Okay. And then I was reading one of the Dolores Cannon books,
Yes.
and they were talking about how, because I know that you talk about when you're part of the hybridization program, they
Yes.
take DNA material from you.
Yes.
And in one of the books, they talked about like some women are actually pregnant with a hybrid kid.
Yes, temporarily sometimes, and then they lose it or what they think is a miscarriage that's not.
So it's like actually physical, like not just an energetic kind of.
Yes, it can actually be physical. And then the embryo is taken and matured on board the ships in hybridization tanks.
Wow. Okay. And then can you explain why, like the idea of soul families, why we have them in?
Why do you have friends?
Well, no, I mean like instead of just everybody like being one soul family, I guess.
Well, on one level, of course, everyone is one soul family, but we understand that when you people use those terms, you're usually referring to something a little bit farther down the line and closer to physical reality in spirit.
Okay.
So there are, just as you have reasons for having the friends you have, there are reasons you have for having the soul family you have that is connected to the idea of your experiences on Earth. Plus, you all have soul families that might be connected to other civilizations or other dimensions of reality. And again, on and on and on and on and up and up and up and up until, of course, at that level, everything is one.
Okay. And then,
Of course, it doesn't end there
yeah.
because you
And
can have families of the one.
right. Okay. Um, and so, also in my own encounter experience that I had in
Yes.
September, I was aware of like being on a. I mean, it might not have been a ship, but it was somewhere else. But I was also aware of being in my body in
Yes.
bed. But
Yes.
when the experience was over, I was
Yes.
left with a mark.
Yes.
So I was like,
It'll happen that way sometimes.
but how does that work mechanically? Like, is your
Because sometimes when you are shifted to a different reality and a certain adjustment or change is made, remember, as above, so below. So sometimes what is altered in the template level reality on a different level will then manifest in the physical reality as well.
okay? And then, oh, do we have technologies? Because I know a lot of us can go to like Sedona and sense vortices,
Yes.
just intuitively.
Yes.
But are there technologies that we can build or already have?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Do we already have them or?
You have all the equipment. Sometimes there are combinations of them that are sensitive enough to detect the electromagnetic vortices.
Okay.
And sometimes you have other versions of technology that need to be put together in ways that would be sensitive enough to detect the vortices. But yes, you have the technology to do that.
Okay, cool. Um, oh,
Yes.
and and then last night, or maybe it wasn't last night, maybe it was 2 nights ago. You were talking about someone asked a question, and you were talking about open contact.
Yes.
And I remember in other events you've said it's
2025 to 2033, maybe 2040. And the last time
Yeah.
we said it, we said 2033
Yeah.
to 2040. Yes, it's changed a bit, but it's always fluctuating. And when we gave that reading, that was indicative of the energy at the time we gave the reading.
and
Because sometimes that window will tighten, will widen, will collapse, will expand, depending on what's going on your planet, which is one of the reasons we're talking today about the eye of the storm and staying in the center, so that it may expand again for those that remain in the center. But it will collapse and continue to collapse for those that don't.
okay. Um, are so life purpose numbers, are they
Life, purpose,
Like life path numbers, like
Life path numbers.
yeah, there's a book
You're
by
talking about a permission slip.
yeah,
Well, you know what we say about permission slips, yes?
yeah, how they just give you an opportunity to be more of yourself.
So if you are attracted to use it, that means it must be aligned at the moment with your belief system
Yeah.
to allow you the opportunity to circumvent your belief system.
Right. Yeah.
Because you think you need that particular tool, technique, ritual, or object to make it easier to give yourself permission to be more of who you choose to be. It's that simple. So all permission slips are valid. It just depends on what you're attracted to that will work best for you. That's why you're attracted to it.
Right. And then my last question is again about the hybrid kids.
Yes.
So I guess it's kind of a two-part question.
I love how clever you all are. It's my last 5-part question.
Two. So I feel like so I was in a meditation one time and was really deep in it, and I felt like I went through a doorway, and
Yes.
if not all, most of my hybrid kids were there.
Yes. And so?
Was that like me actually seeing them, or just like
Yes. Yes.
okay.
What does actually mean?
Well, like
You shifted yourself through a portal to a higher dimensional plane where you had the ability in your senses to perceive that they are there.
no, yeah, I just thought like maybe because sometimes when we dream, it's like how you say that it's like sometimes it's not actually you that's in our dream. It's our
Yes, I
yeah.
understand. But in the case you're talking about, yes, you were able to perceive your hybrid children.
Okay, and then will I ever be able to meet them like in physical reality?
There are high probabilities of that occurring in your lifetime, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar! So excited. Okay.
It's you before either.
Amazing.
So we're on the same level already.
My first question is on behalf of my mother,
Yes,
who invited me here today.
yes.
If Daryl Enka is here and speaking for a future self, Bashar, what happened in between?
We're not sure that your question is translating. What exactly are you asking?
How did you become this entity?
You mean, how did the channel become a channel for us?
Yes.
Well, that story does exist in many forms. The brief version is that many of your years ago, because an agreement was made for the channel to do this with us in this life, we showed him our spacecraft on 2 occasions in 1 week. Because he had those particular close broad daylight sightings, his curiosity to research and explore what that meant became paramount in his vision. Therefore, through the research, through many years, he encountered many different kinds of concepts that you would call metaphysical, and ultimately found his way, synchronistically, to another channel who was teaching a channeling class with an entity. And in going into that class to research the idea of how channeling could be taught, in a meditative state, a memory finally came back, and a message was delivered by us that now that he remembered, we had shown him our ship to get him to start learning what he needed to learn, so that by the time it came time to begin the channeling, he would be prepared to do so and wouldn't be confused or scared. Then he took upon himself the willingness to continue and see where it would lead. Thus, 37 of your years ago, he began this and is still doing it today, because he understands that the most important thing about this particular process is the accessibility to the information that will help individuals who choose to use it for that purpose. Does that answer your question?
I hope it does. Thank
Or
you.
are you asking something different?
I will be asking another line of questioning on behalf of myself now.
All right.
As I'm developing business
Yes.
and success and
Oh,
influences.
one moment. There's another piece to this idea. Understand that the way this happens for all of you is that when you do what you love to do, you're in the channeling state, which is a particular brainwave frequency between 40 and 100 cycles per second called gamma. And when you're in that state, you are matching frequencies with other levels of consciousness. And in matching those frequencies, you generate the same thoughts at the same time as the other entity. So the channel is functioning as a translation device by allowing himself to get into an altered state that represents the ability to translate his own thoughts at the same level that my thoughts are happening. So in that sense, he becomes a representation of my thoughts, a representation of my personality, a representation of the information through his own body, because we're operating in lockstep like tuning forks. That's how channeling works. So, proceed with your own question.
Thank you. As I develop influence and success through business,
Yes.
I'm finding that even though I intend to benefit society and myself, there are unintended consequences
Such as?
that negatively affect other people.
Such as?
Creating a new system or way of doing things
Yes.
that is putting other people out of work.
So what can be done to ameliorate that?
Is it possible to undertake business without, or any other type of political organization without unintentionally negatively affecting others?
Others that choose to be negatively affected is something you can do nothing about. But if you realize that what you're doing may bring about the potential for change that may make it less likely for them to continue to do what they're doing, then a portion of the business to truly be successful must undertake the entire operation of providing, at the very least, information that may help educate others to learn how to do something else.
Excellent. And with regards to acting in a business,
Yes.
when one's reality and interests conflict negatively with another's, or completely opposing interests,
That's usually the result of surface negative fear-based belief systems. And when you get those out of the way and go really into the depth of what each being really needs, you will usually find more coherence, or that their needs can be fulfilled much simpler than you think. Because usually people say, well, I really need this, I really need that, and they don't really. When it comes down to the simple things they truly need, you can usually find a way to satisfy everybody if they're willing to divest themselves of the superficial things they think they need in order to be successful. They will usually discover that it's actually very simple and that some accommodation can be had by all.
So in an event that interests and needs are completely divergent,
Give us an example.
let's say that, let's say you try and help somebody with one thing and it results in them identifying a piece of their building that is imminently going to kill people if it collapses.
All right.
And they wish to waylay blame onto the person who is discovering this.
So this is what I'm talking about. You are dealing with individuals who are simply unwilling to look and take responsibility at their own belief systems.
And so what decides whose reality prevails?
You both do, for yourselves. But again, you have to also question yourself about exactly why you have involved yourself in something that brought about interaction with someone who may not be willing to see eye to eye. So you have to take responsibility for your part of the experience while allowing them to take responsibility for their part, whether they're willing to do that or not. It's up to you to take responsibility for your part and why you attracted this and what it is you're learning from this experience and whether or not it's something you even need to continue with.
How does one bring that into their reality, such negativity?
You attract it because it exists, and you attract it to learn something from it and decide for yourself whether it's something you want to continue to interact with or not.
And how does one leave that interaction?
You walk away. You let go. You realize you don't really need it anymore. You realize you've learned the lesson from it. Remember that sometimes you will attract very strongly a representation of what you don't prefer to make it clearer what you do prefer. And if it's made clear what you do prefer by contrast from what you don't prefer, then turn around and go and do what you prefer. Don't keep hanging on to what you don't prefer, thinking that you have to remain engaged with it. You have learned the lesson. Walk away.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Remember that by being your true self, it's the most loving thing you can do for someone else, because then they understand who they're actually in a relationship with. And if they actually wish to continue to be in a relationship with you, then that gives them the option to change to be more compatible with you, so that you don't have to change to become more compatible with something you don't.